Hello, it's Friday, March 2nd, 2018, and as of this recording, I'm still depressed, but I'm not dead. Hey everybody, welcome back to the show. It's been a while, a whole month, I think. I think it was very early February that I put out the last show. Hopefully my voice has returned well enough from the sickness that I've been suffering. For those of you who don't know, I did come down with the flu, and complicated with that, I had pneumonia, and that put me out of service for 2 weeks probably. And it's been at least another week now that I've been waiting for my voice to get back to a point where I could speak relatively well, and not be bothered by nagging coughs every other word. So if I sound a little different, that's why. But it's been long enough. I thought it was time to put a show out and let you guys all know I'm still here, still thinking about you, and I hope you're all doing well. So before I get into the show, let me remind you how you can get a hold of me. jamoalki@gmail.com, facebook.com/jamoalki, Jamoalki, or what else? @Jamoalki on Twitter, www.jamoalki.info. That's JAMOALKI. Or you can send me a text message at 248-648-1419. Reach out, let me know how you're doing. Let's start a conversation. Those of you who have recently emailed me and sent me text messages, I will be getting back to you. It's just been a long 3-4 weeks for me here. And hopefully I can get back to normal, and we can get shows out on a regular basis, and I can hit you guys back up on whatever media platform you've reached out to me with. Also, if you can do me a favor, and wherever you get your podcasts from, if you could subscribe to the show so you get first shot at listening to the podcasts, as well as give me a 5-star rating on iTunes. I think you can do it on Google Play Music, Spotify, I think. And that helps me get the show out more regularly. That doesn't make sense at all. Giving me the 5 stars or leaving a review, which is also just as valuable. Please and thank you. Helps the show turn up more frequently in searches for those trying to find podcasts about suicide or depression or anything that this show is related to. So if you could help me out and help others out in finding the show by leaving a review or giving a 5-star rating, that would be fabulous. My voice is starting to crack already, so let's take a break and then get into the show. So like I said, I've been sick for a while. I've never had the flu and I've never had pneumonia, so it was a double whammy for me there. I wasn't really sure what was wrong with me. We had kind of a sickness going throughout the house. The girl was sick, and then the boy was sick, and they seemed to get over it pretty well. The boy had a nagging cough for a little while, and then Nora came down with a fever. I came down with a fever, and there was just a lot of malaise going on in the house. And then I developed a cough that was pretty nasty, and my fever kept going up. It went for a week. I was about 100.5 with a fever, and then it spiked up to 103.5. And Nora said, "Okay, that's high enough. You're going to the urgent care." And we went, and sure enough, they said, "Oh yeah. There's a lot of crackling going on in there. So we're going to give you these antibiotics, and they should shape you right up." And they did, but my voice didn't come back even to this paltry amount for a while. And the more I would talk, the more I would cough, and it just wasn't conducive to putting a show out for you guys. And like I said, hopefully I'm back well enough that I can get through a show here at some length. One thing that I found interesting in my thoughts when I was sick, and actually when I finally went to the doctors, and they said, "Oh yeah, that's the flu and pneumonia." how really nice it was to have a diagnosis like that, for me to be able to say, hey, that's okay, this is the flu, this is pneumonia. These are things that are physical ailments that anyone who is near me can see that, oh, there's something wrong with this guy because he is coughing like that, because he has a fever. He looks like crap. And it was nice for those 4 or 5 days when I was still suffering from all the symptoms, for me to be able to say, hey, look, I'm sick. It is hurting me. It is bad. And here is what it is. And that's as opposed to, mental illness, which I have, the depression, the avoidant personality disorder, the dysthymia, where people can't really see that. They can see that I'm sad maybe, or, something's off in, some way. Not as cheery, happy-go-lucky as maybe most people are. And with the mental illness, I can say it. Hey, I have depression. Hey, I have this personality disorder that not that many people I've talked to have heard of. But they can't see what it's doing to me. There's no frame of reference for, okay, yep, you're bleeding out of your forehead, or, whatever, you walk with a limp. But with the flu, I had a fever. With pneumonia, I had this hacking, terrible cough, and it was obvious to people who interacted with me that, yes, there's something wrong with you. And what is it? Oh, it's these two well-defined things. And that's, okay, great. We see that. We get that. Okay. With mental illness, it's not that well-defined. It's not, sometimes it almost feels like, if I'm explaining to someone what's wrong, or, what I'm dealing with, that I could be making it up, because outside of my word, what proof do they have that there's something wrong with me? And I get into self-stigma a lot with this. And just this morning when I was working, and I was thinking about different things. My work is relatively mindless, so my mind can wander. But I was thinking about, the feeling of not being able to do things, of feeling like, what's the point of doing things? That, all the different symptoms and occurrences that make it difficult for me to get things done. And I thought about it. I was thinking about that today, and I questioned myself as to whether, hey, maybe you're just lazy. Maybe it's not depression. Maybe you're just a bummed out, lazy dude. And if I can think that about myself, what keeps someone else from thinking that? And it's difficult to kind of get. Maybe it's not difficult for people to understand it. Maybe people take me at my word, and maybe it's all myself beating myself up. But, with pneumonia, and the flu, and I was in bed as much as I could. Foolish me, I did go to work even after being diagnosed. I'd been on antibiotic for 36 hours, so I deduced that I wasn't contagious anymore. The doctor had said, oh, yeah, well, you've had the flu for what? You've had a fever for 7 days. Well, we don't consider that contagious anymore. So I didn't feel as though I was harming the community by being out and about. But yeah, other than going to work, I was in bed, and it felt more validated that I was in bed because I had this physical diagnosis of illness rather than a mental, psychological diagnosis of illness. And I just thought it was interesting to feel that way. to, I guess I've thought about it before, and I've probably heard people talk about it before, where, and I've heard people talk about it, like they almost wish that they had cancer or some other physical disease, and not to say that, whatever mental illness is worse than cancer. Why, I'd rather have cancer than depression or bipolar or whatever. Just in the way of saying, if I had something like cancer, then I would have physical symptoms that I could show other people, and it would make me feel more validated as someone who has an illness. And it was the first time that I really felt that way. I really kind of could look at myself and say, yeah, you know what? It did feel more justifiable for me to act sick when I was physically sick as opposed to mentally sick. I don't know. What do you guys think about that? Do you have similar thoughts or what? Let me know. That I was kind of interested by that. So also in this past week, I made a trip to Charlotte to go see, originally some friends of mine, Dave and Scott, who you've met both on the show here. We had decided to go to Charlotte to see a basketball game, the Detroit Pistons against the Charlotte Hornets. Dave is a huge Pistons fan, and Scott is, he's a sports fan and just likes hanging out, and we thought it would be a fun road trip. And in the intervening time, my ex and my two little girls ended up moving to Charlotte, so it was an opportunity for me to hang around a few extra days and see them. The drive down, 18-hour drive, was long and really wore me out. I didn't anticipate enough how much the driving would wear me out in my still recovering phase. So we had plans. It was a Sunday afternoon game. We had planned Saturday to meet up, Scott and Dave and I and Dave's sister, and have dinner and whatnot. And I bowed out of dinner because I just was. I'd been running late with traffic, but really I just felt so miserable that I wanted nothing more than to get settled in and get a good night's sleep. Sunday came and we did some sightseeing, saw the basketball game. It was a good time. And then I went to my ex's house again, and she, graciously let me stay at the house with her and the girls for a couple days, and it was great seeing my girls. We did a lot of homework, which was fine. It's not the dream kind of activity you do when you're visiting your girls so far away, but they needed to get homework done, and they were both fantastic at kind of muddling through. Mo, we had to go out and buy a graphing calculator. She's doing linear regressions and things like that, which I don't remember from school. And it was frustrating. We didn't know how to use the calculator. We weren't really sure. This was review stuff for the school she's in now, and material that she hadn't covered in the school that she came from. So there's a lot that she didn't know about it and a lot that I didn't know about it. But she pluckily kept going along with it, and I told her how proud I was of her for not throwing her hands up and getting emotional. She just kind of, okay, let's get on to the next one. And we did some fun things. We went out to eat. We went to a Dave & Buster's. We just kind of hung out and had some fun also. But so Tuesday night before they went to bed, and the plan was I would get up Wednesday, take them to school, and then start driving back. So Wednesday morning wasn't a good time to kind of say our farewells and all that. So Tuesday night I took each one of them aside and, sat with them in their room, and I always make it a point to let them know how much I love them and how very proud I am of them, and how happy I am that they're my girls. And I found myself getting really emotional when doing that, which I thought was a little strange. It's been a while since I've been so emotional to the point where I would, could physically show it. with my girls. It's always a bummer and brings me down when it's time to leave, but it's been a while since I've been, physically emotional around them. And I noticed Mo was kind of checking out my eyes, and I could see that she could see that I was getting kind of watery-eyed, teary-eyed. And so I got through that with both of them and went to, where I was sleeping, and I laid down and I just started crying and crying and crying for, it must have been half an hour. I couldn't stop. I wasn't uncontrollably wailing, but I was just crying. And the more I thought about having to leave them, I thought about, again, one of my problems I need to work on, is my feelings of being an inadequate father. And I would think about that, and that, tears would be renewed. I sent Nora a few messages and let her know just, hey, I feel really terrible. I'm crying, can't stop crying. I'm really sad. And she suggested that we look into my next visit, which is going to be a little tricky because, going again in March right now seems kind of soon. April is kind of tied up as we're taking a week to go to the Raleigh area to check out houses and things like that for our pending move this June. So then we're into May before I could really take more time off of work. So, it was a nice sentiment, but in my situation at the time, I was like, it seems so far away. I think I'm just going to go to sleep. And eventually I did, and Monday wasn't nearly as emotional when I dropped them off at school. And yeah, so that was kind of that trip to go see them. It was really good to see them and interact with them, and even doing homework with them was fun. But yeah, it was strangely emotional for me. Something way I hadn't felt in several months, I'd say, going back to see them. What else did I want to talk about today? I did want to thank everybody who's been sending me messages. I've had a few people send me messages seeing if I was okay, just because it's been so long since I put a show out. And I don't have the lists up in front of me of emails and text messages, but thank you everybody who sent out messages. That's fantastic of you. I appreciate it. Those of you who have reached out to me and shared some stories with me, I will be getting back to you this weekend. Probably tomorrow or Sunday. I'll sit up at the bagel shop with some bagels and get back to writing some messages. Some other things that I'd wanted to touch on, but my voice is really getting kind of gravelly here, I think, at least it sounds to me. So I think I'm going to leave it at a shorter show, and I make a promise that I'll get back with another show next week, and talk to you guys again. So thanks for your patience in waiting for the next show. Thanks for your patience in the shortness of this show. You guys are all wonderful. I love hearing from you, so please keep the messages coming. And until next time, everybody be safe and be well.